The dawn of humanity's strength. In the vast expanse of the Galactic Senate Hall, a place that had witnessed the fates of entire civilizations being sealed with the mere exchange of words, the air hummed with palpable tension. The hall itself, an enormous chamber carved into the living rock of a planet far beyond Earth's star system, was a monument to the unity of the galaxy's most advanced species. Its curved walls stretched up toward a glittering dome, where holographic projections of distant worlds floated in a delicate dance. Thousands of voices had converged in this place, but today one voice would need to rise above the noise, the voice of humanity. Ambassador Ileana Doris, a high-ranking diplomat from Earth, stood at the front of the chamber, her eyes locked onto the faces of the assembled delegates. Ileana was not a typical diplomat. In her sharp suit and poised stance, she embodied the best of humanity's strengths. Beneath her composed exterior, however, her mind raced. The fate of her people rested on what would unfold in the next few hours. The subject of the council session was not an ordinary one. It wasn't about resources, trade agreements, or planetary defense. It was about humanity. The galaxy's most powerful species had gathered to decide whether Earth's inhabitants were worthy of full membership in the Galactic Federation, a prestigious position that granted access to advanced technology, interstellar trade, and the protection of the Federation's military forces. But some in the room, especially those from the older and more entrenched species, were skeptical. They saw humans as a blip in the cosmic timeline, primitive, fragile, and hopelessly outmatched by the other species that had evolved over millennia. And yet, a part of Ileana felt she had seen something that others had not, something that could prove humanity's true worth. The chamber erupted as a familiar figure, Councillor Threx, rose to address the council. Threx, a towering figure with a body made of hard exoskeleton plating and 6 sharp mandibles, was well known for his harsh stance on human potential. His voice boomed across the room, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, as he looked out over the assembly. "I have no doubt that humanity is an intelligent species," Threx began, his mandibles clicking with a rhythmic precision. "But their very survival in this galaxy is questionable. Their planet is a death trap, home to violent storms, raging oceans, and hazardous wildlife. Their species, while numerous, lacks any natural advantages that would make them fit for our Federation. Let us not forget the tragic history of their world, where they nearly wiped themselves out in petty wars." Ileana could hear the subtle murmurs of agreement echoing across the chamber, but she knew the tide was turning. Human history was long and fraught with mistakes, yet there was something else, something undeniable, that others could not see. A delegate from the serene and highly intelligent Saran species, with their translucent skin and mind-linked consciousness, spoke next. Her voice, soft yet firm, cut through the murmurs of the room. "Threx's point is valid," she acknowledged, her luminous eyes scanning the council. "However, I've seen the humans' history. They have one trait that none of us can deny: resilience. When faced with extinction, they fight back with unmatched willpower. Time and time again, despite all odds, they persist. Their capacity for survival is not only impressive, it is unrelenting." The Saran delegate's words sparked a ripple of discomfort among some of the council members. To many species in the room, resilience was not enough to justify extending the hand of Federation membership. But the Saran statement struck a chord with Ileana. She had spent years studying Earth's history, its wars, its plagues, its revolutions, and most importantly, the unwavering spirit that bound humanity together in times of crisis. It was then that Ambassador Lyran of the Antria, a species renowned for their mastery of both technology and diplomacy, stood. His sleek, silver-blue figure shimmered in the light as he addressed the assembly. Lyran was always measured in his words, but today there was a sharpness in his voice. "Let us speak plainly," Lyran said, his gaze piercing. "Humanity is a wild card, but they are not without merit. Their ingenuity is unparalleled. Their ability to adapt and innovate in the face of overwhelming adversity is something I have seen firsthand. I have visited Earth. I have observed them build, struggle, and evolve. While their technology may be crude compared to ours, they have an inherent brilliance that no other species in the galaxy possesses. Their minds are sharp, and they never stop pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Ileana's heart swelled with pride. It was true. Humanity's strength did not come from the edge of a blade or the size of a ship, but from their minds, from their unyielding drive to create, to survive, to explore. They had once been divided by their differences, but in their unity, they had achieved wonders. It was this spirit, this force of will, that had carried them across the stars and into the very halls of the Galactic Senate. She took a breath, knowing her time had come. The assembly was divided, and now it was her turn to make her case. Stepping forward, Ileana activated a holographic display, bringing it to life in front of the council. It was a timeline, a brief overview of humanity's history. I ask you to look at the evidence, she said, her voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. What you see before you is a species that has faced extinction at every turn, yet they persist. The first humans who walked on Earth fought off predators and harsh climates. As their world changed, they adapted. They faced wars, plagues, and natural disasters. And still, they survived. This is not the tale of a species doomed to failure. It is the story of a species that has learned to rise time and time again. And now, they stand on the precipice of becoming a galactic power. The holographic display shifted, showing images of humanity's achievements. The creation of the first artificial satellites, the landing on the moon, the advent of faster-than-light travel, and the countless scientific breakthroughs that had shaped their civilization. But what truly makes them unique, Ileana continued, is their ability to dream. They push the boundaries of their existence, seeking not only to survive but to thrive. When faced with threats, they do not cower in fear. They fight back. They do not wait for others to solve their problems. They solve them themselves. Ileana paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. Humanity is not here to ask for mercy, she finished, her voice steady and unyielding. They are here because they have earned their place among the stars. And if you close your eyes to their potential, you will regret it. The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. It was a silence that spoke volumes. Some delegates were still skeptical, but others, those who had seen the spark of humanity's resolve, knew that Ileana's words were true. As the session ended and the delegates dispersed, Ileana remained at the front of the chamber. She had done what she came to do. She had shown them the strength of humanity. Now, she would wait. The future of Earth rested on the decision of the Galactic Senate, but one thing was certain. Humanity had already proven they were not a species to be underestimated. And as Ileana walked out of the Grand Hall, her heart beat with hope. No matter what happened next, the galaxy had just witnessed the dawn of humanity's strength, the human edge. The sun had barely begun to set over the sprawling city of Arcadia when Ileana Doris found herself seated in a quiet, secluded corner of the Galactic Federation's diplomatic complex. The glowing panels of the city's skyline reflected in the glass windows, casting long shadows across the room, where only a handful of beings remained. Most of the high-ranking delegates had left for the night, their voices still echoing through the corridors, but the council's session had not yet concluded. Ileana's thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. The weight of humanity's future had never been so heavy on her shoulders. She had given her all in that council meeting, pouring out every ounce of her faith in humanity's potential, but there was still no guarantee. The galaxy was vast, and its inhabitants had seen more than their fair share of empires rise and fall. To them, humanity was but a speck, a new, brash species without centuries of galactic history to back them up. But Ileana knew better. She knew what humanity was capable of. The holographic images she had shown the council earlier still lingered in her mind. She thought about the first humans who had looked to the stars and dreamed of reaching them. The early explorers had sailed across uncharted seas, climbed mountains that had once seemed impassable, and built cities where nothing had stood before. Humanity's ability to dream, to innovate, and to endure was their true strength. Their ingenuity wasn't bound by the limitations of their biology. They made up for their physical fragility with something that no other species could replicate: unbreakable determination. As Ileana stared out at the twinkling city lights, the door behind her slid open, and a soft, measured voice broke the quiet. "You're up late," said the voice of Lyran, the Antria delegate. He had been one of the few in the council who had defended humanity, though his words had been cautious, carefully weighed. Lyran species, known for their advanced technological understanding and diplomatic finesse, had always been slow to embrace change, but he had seen something in humanity that even others hadn't. Ileana turned to face him, offering a tired but genuine smile. "I couldn't sleep. It's strange, isn't it, to feel so certain about something, yet know that others see it so differently." Lyran stepped closer, his sleek, silver-blued form shifting in the dim light as he took a seat across from her. "It is a difficult position, but you gave them something to think about today. You showed them humanity's heart." Ileana leaned back in her chair, her fingers tapping thoughtfully on the armrest. "The council's heart is another matter. They didn't see what I see. They see humanity as a temporary fixture, something that will eventually be outgrown. But I spent my entire life studying their history. That's not who they are." Lyran regarded her with those brilliant, luminous eyes, his voice calm but tinged with understanding. "You're not alone in your views, Ambassador. There are many here who see the potential in humans. You've made the right case. Perhaps it will take time for the others to understand. But the seed has been planted. You've proven humanity's resolve and its drive to overcome. That's more than most species can claim." "Perhaps," Ileana replied, her voice uncertain. "But time is something we don't have. If we don't convince them now, the galaxy could turn its back on Earth, leaving them vulnerable. And then we'll truly have something to regret." Lyran nodded. "Indeed. But this is not the first time the galaxy has underestimated a species. Your people have done it before, and they've survived it. In fact, that's their greatest strength. The universe may not realize it yet, but humanity has something that no other species possesses: an unyielding hunger for progress. And that hunger, combined with their resilience, will make them an unstoppable force." Ileana felt a spark of hope flicker inside her. "What do you mean by that?" "Humanity's edge," Lyran said, his voice carrying a quiet reverence. "They have an adaptability unlike any other. Many species in the galaxy, even those with far superior technology, are creatures of routine. They rely on their strength, their technology, their perfect systems to survive. But humans are different. They can fail, and they will learn from it. They will rise, rebuild, and learn to do better the next time. They are never satisfied with mediocrity. They will evolve, constantly, unpredictably. That unpredictability gives them an edge." Ileana thought about his words. The idea resonated with her on a deeper level. She had seen it in every aspect of human history. They didn't simply exist within the confines of their biology. They'd pushed beyond it. They had changed their environment, shaped their cultures, and redefined what it meant to be a species. Their triumphs, their failures, and their relentless pursuit of something greater made them the galaxy's most unpredictable and, potentially, its most powerful species. "It's not just about survival, is it?" Ileana murmured to herself. "It's about thriving, about pushing the boundaries of what they know, of what's possible. And when they don't succeed, they come back stronger." Lyran smiled softly. "Exactly. And that's why the galaxy should be wary of underestimating them. When humans put their minds to something, they can achieve the impossible. You saw that in their early history with their space programs, their scientific advances. They didn't just settle for surviving. They dreamed of reaching for the stars. They'll do the same here, once they find their place." The silence in the room felt heavy, as both Ileana and Lyran let the weight of those words settle over them. In that moment, she realized something critical. Humanity wasn't just another species. They weren't a group of beings clinging to survival. They were an unstoppable force that could reshape the galaxy if they were given the chance. "I think you're right," Ileana said quietly. "But the Council doesn't see it. They can't see past their own biases, their own assumptions about what makes a species worthy. And that's why it's up to me, to us, to show them." Lyran placed a hand on her shoulder in a gesture of solidarity. "Then show them, Ambassador. You've already made them listen. All that's left is to give them the time to understand. And when they do, they'll know what the rest of the galaxy is beginning to realize. Humans are not to be underestimated. They will be the galaxy's greatest asset." The conversation lingered in the air long after Lyran had left, leaving Ileana with a renewed sense of purpose. As she looked out at the city once more, she thought of Earth, the chaos, the beauty, the struggle. Humanity had built its civilization from the ground up, and it would continue to climb higher, no matter what the future held. The Council would come to understand what humanity was capable of. But until then, she would continue to fight for them, for their future among the stars. She knew now, without a doubt, that humanity's time had come, and nothing would stop them. The test of trust. The days following the Galactic Council meeting were tense, filled with whispers and clandestine discussions in dark corners of the diplomatic chambers. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with some of the most powerful species in the galaxy still unconvinced of Earth's worth. Ileana Doris had done all she could to present the case for humanity, but now it was a waiting game. Would the Federation accept them into their fold, or would Earth be left to navigate the treacherous waters of galactic politics alone? Despite the uncertainty, Ileana remained resolute. She spent the following weeks meeting with delegates, diplomats, and strategists, doing her best to sway their opinions. But each conversation seemed to reaffirm the skepticism that many held. Humanity's raw potential, their ability to adapt and innovate, was undeniable. But was it enough to secure their place among the stars? Ileana knew the answer to that question herself, but words alone wouldn't convince the Council. Action was required. Something bold, something that would prove humanity's strength once and for all. It was in the middle of one such meeting, late into a quiet evening, when the galaxy's fragile peace was shattered. The news came through on a holographic display. A remote colony on the planet Zerth Prime was under attack. The Zerthians, a peaceful and technologically advanced species, had long been allies of the Federation, but their position as a neutral planet had made them vulnerable to the increasing tensions between the galaxy's more aggressive factions. The news was grim. A group of marauders, known as the Kaltori Raiders, had launched an assault on the colony, targeting civilian sectors and causing widespread panic. The Kaltori were notorious for their brutality, sweeping through systems without mercy. They were mercenaries, scavengers, and conquerors who saw no value in diplomacy. Their only goal was to dominate and plunder, no matter the cost. Ileana's heart sank as she watched the image of the burning city on Zerth Prime. It was a stark reminder of the galaxy's dark side. A side humanity had never fully known, but was now on the cusp of confronting. As she reviewed the intelligence reports, she felt a pang of helplessness. The Federation's response was swift but inadequate. The Zerthians had requested aid from the Council, but the Federation, as always, was unwilling to risk its own resources for a neutral world. The Kaltori were not part of the Federation's jurisdiction, and the Council was hesitant to intervene in such a volatile situation. That's when a voice broke through her reverie. "It's not right, is it?" It was Lyran, the Antria diplomat. He had been with her throughout the days since the Council meeting, offering quiet support when the pressures of the negotiations became overwhelming. Ileana turned to him, nodding slowly. "No, it's not. The Federation's neutrality, their constant hesitance to act, it only invites more conflict. The Kaltori won't stop at Zerth Prime. If they're allowed to go unchecked, they'll strike again. And again. Lyron's expression was unreadable as he studied the situation. It's true. But what can we do? The Federation won't send its fleets to help. And unless you can convince the Council to take action, they'll remain silent on this. Ileana sighed deeply. Her thoughts raced as she thought about the Federation's typical response. Calculating, cautious, and often paralyzed by its own bureaucracy. The Council would debate the situation for weeks, possibly months, and by then, the Xerthians would be all but destroyed. That's when a radical thought struck her. It was bold, dangerous, and it could change everything. "We don't need the Federation's fleets," Ileana said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have something far more powerful." Lyron looked at her curiously. And what would that be? Humanity. The words hung in the air between them, and for a long moment, Lyron was silent. He had seen humanity's determination firsthand, but this was a new proposition. To rely on humans as a force of intervention was risky, especially when many in the galaxy still viewed them as an unpredictable and dangerous species. Yet, as Ileana stood there, the truth of it became undeniable. Humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their ships, it was their will. When they saw injustice, they didn't hesitate. They didn't wait for orders. They acted. The decision was made in an instant. Ileana stood, her mind made up. She would reach out to the human military forces. She would personally request their help in defending Xerth Prime, and if the Federation refused to support them, humanity would act alone. "Prepare a message to Earth," Ileana said, turning to her aides. "We need to contact the Terran Defense Force. Tell them that we require their assistance. Immediately." Within hours, the message had been sent, and Earth's response was swift. The Terran Defense Force, with its fleet of advanced warships and seasoned soldiers, was already mobilizing. Within days, humanity's ships were on their way to Xerth Prime, ready to do what the Federation had refused to. When Ileana stood before the Federation's council the following week, she did so with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew what the Federation would say. They would argue that this was not their fight, that the Kaltori were not a galactic threat. But she also knew that once the Federation saw the power of humanity's resolve, once they saw the effectiveness of their intervention, everything would change. The following days brought a surprising sense of urgency to the Federation's debates. Suddenly, it wasn't just the Kaltori that posed a threat to galactic peace, it was humanity. And they were proving themselves to be a force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. As the Terran Defense Force arrived at Xerth Prime, the Kaltori were already wreaking havoc on the colony's civilian sectors. Ships with jagged hulls and makeshift weapons filled the skies above the planet, their marauders storming the streets below, their battle cries echoing across the ruins. The Xerthian defenders, outnumbered and outmatched, had no hope of stopping the Kaltori alone. But the Terran Defense Force wasn't there to negotiate. They weren't there to parley or to play by the usual rules of galactic diplomacy. Humanity's military had come to do one thing: protect. As the first Terran ships dropped into the atmosphere, their engines roaring with power, Ileana watched in awe. The sight was breathtaking. Earth's military might was nothing like the high-tech ships of the Federation or the Antria. Their ships were sleek, powerful, and armed with weapons that made quick work of the Kaltori invaders. The battle that ensued was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. In mere hours, the marauders had been repelled, their ships disabled, and their forces scattered.